I'd like to start off saying that the future of urban cities, or of urban India, and the larger terms, our planet, is increasingly dependent on communities in the urban areas and how they manage the resources, right? So, more than 60% of the population these days live in the cities, and the numbers are increasing. And communities is the one that can make the change. But nobody is looking at a sustainable plan. Nobody is even thinking beyond a tanker. And tanker didn't occur to them as a depleting resource. So the turning point actually happened when, during the TEDx Salon 2016, we were actually taken in a bus to a place which is called Gandipet Lake. And we were sitting on this lake bed discussing water in the city. It was so stark a contrast because this lake in 1920s was the only source for water in Hyderabad, and that was sufficient for the entire city. And today we are sitting on this lake dry bed. So it kind of touched me deeply, and that's when I thought, like, what are we really doing with our city? And started to understand and explore, and the thought leaders has great leads to this thought, as in we had challenges as a city because mostly it's on sheetrock, and today we draw water from 1,000 feet below, so it's logically right to recharge the deep aquifers. That's when the birth of Save 10K boards happened, which was an outcome of the salon. A small group, we started working on this idea where it's basically rooftop recharge through a simple filter and connected to the dead bore. So we're talking about reviving at least 10 lakh bores, right? So this was the most economical, can be done in few hours, and you don't need too much of a technical support. A simple plumber can actually make this happen. Then we took on to it, in the sense, had a small press meeting and got the press to know about this idea and started talking to researchers and people in the field who have worked in water, and they applauded this idea, and we started slowly driving it into communities. And soon I was driving it in schools, talking to kids, telling them, okay, now go back to your parents and ask them, what is the plan for water that you have in your own homes? And while the kids understood the global water situation, they had no clue about what the city had and where it was going through a critical zone. We're actually talking no water in 10 years, or we'll be fighting for water in 10 years in Hyderabad. That's how much depletion that's happening is in groundwater. Around this time is when there was another platform called Hyderabad Urban Makeover that happened. And this was a platform for NGOs and anybody that was doing some good work for the city could co-collaborate with the government or other NGOs, and you could come up and work together for the larger plan for the city. So I saw a possibility that it's possible to rope in with the government and work for a larger cause. And we came up with this 60-day aggressive campaign plan for rainwater harvesting, because we realized that when we told people that there is no water for the city in the next 10 years and understand how critical it is for you to revive water, that's when they woke up to the situation. So awareness was key. So we had to do it citywide, and it had to be an aggressive plan, not get diluted. So we gave him a 60-day plan, and we actually worked on budgets and also told him how and why it will work, and tying in print media, social media, and also using tankers, right? The city owned about 750 tankers. I actually got one of the tankers painted and used the tanker as campaign material. the guy who needs the tanker is the one who needs the most awareness. And you see these tankers flying all over the city throughout the day, even if it is not summer. So that's the situation in Hyderabad. So, and also planned about 130 events, tying up with the existing events, and also talked about art installations which will make an impact, which will give you that thought-provoking thing. So I went to many HMW backyards, looking for pipes and rusted pipes and machinery and trying to tie in the JNFAU art students into it and working with them on these installations. While we went far ahead and it was just about ready to go, then the government came back and telling us that the next 3 months, they had to plan aggressively on the industry rainwater harvesting, which was a larger concern, and they already had the budget in place and they had to drive it. So it's kind of went in the back burner, but we are still working on that thread. Then around that time, I also became part of a Stepfells research team, headed by architect Yashwant Ramamurthy, and this was to document the lost Stepfells of Telangana. There were only 30 Stepfells that's documented, where we had 200 plus historic Stepfells. So it is basically documenting these Stepfells. That's when I got this profound learning on our traditional water systems. How did it work? What was the watershed management that they had? From river to tanks to the Kakatiya rulers actually built about 3,000 tanks and lakes, man-made lakes. And then the last point was the Stepfell. So that got in a different kind of knowledge that, yes, it is possible. If we revive Stepfells and the surface water bodies, we can make a larger change. So that's when I suddenly started seeing, like when you say that you have a strong intent and the universe conspires, right? So my government thread that was already happening in terms of campaigning for rainwater harvesting. So the mayor connected me to the zonal commissioner, and the lakes that we had identified, she was the one, and the irrigation department he tied us into. So there was a government connect and the people connect too, because I was working on rainwater harvesting with various communities. Typically, it used to be my weekend job to just walk in voluntarily into communities and ask them to do rainwater harvesting. So I had the community connect too. And now the architect friends from the Stepfells research team and other architects came forward, and they were interested in also restoring the lake and talking about beautifying the lake more meaningfully, right? So everything started coming together and started becoming more exciting. Then came the Ganesh Chaturthi, and I really took on to this festival and took this as a huge opportunity for mass awareness. Now, Ganesh Chaturthi is so connected to immersion in the lake. So today we've polluted the lakes with POP idols and that. While clay Ganesha is not the problem, but the kind of garbage that goes in. As a city in Hyderabad, throughout the 13 days, each day we have 300 tons more of garbage that strains the city, and there are 300 trucks flying and the large infrastructure, about 96,000 plastic bags, and understood like what are we really doing to the city, and we're just further killing the water bodies. So when I took on to this, there's this person called Datu from Parel, Mumbai, who came up with this idea of tree Ganesha, where you plant the Ganesha, you don't even immerse. So that was, while I was looking out for what is the idea that I take across, I found this to be fantastic because it doesn't even go to the lake, and you're actually planting a tree in your own vicinity, and you'll most probably 100% take care of it because you are immersing a Ganesha there. So I started taking it to communities that I'm working around, because the communities around the lakes is one that needs massive awareness, and also took it to schools. I reached to about 25,000 kids in schools, took a pledge from each of them that they would this year not just do clay Ganesha, but also plant a Ganesha. And I took the thread to the government also, and talked to the zonal commissioner, shared few pictures, and she shared it with the minister, and he actually tweeted, and and then the videos we made around the plant a Ganesha became viral, and the communities, if you see those kids there, when I gave the awareness, there were about 20, 30 kids. When we actually started making, there were about 100 kids making. So the entire slum communities, a couple of communities, I was able to change them from 100% POP Ganeshas to 100% clay Ganeshas and not even take them to the lake, though the lake is right in their backyard. And towards the end, this whole thing culminated into a massive event where we partnered with the government. I actually worked on it day in and day out. And the zonal commissioner was a huge support, bringing in the government angle. And we had a 3,000 attendee event where most of them were from residential societies across Hyderabad, taking this awareness. And they actually distributed 2,000 plant tree Ganeshas to people through another NGO which was also promoting this cause. So that was a fantastic move. And while we were talking about individual lakes and communities and the festivals, we also had to look at the bigger picture, because constantly in the news you hear frothing lakes. If you see there, we actually, there's a funny tag on that, froth my latte and not my lake. So it's heavy chemical pollution, reason being Hyderabad is a pharma city too. So chemical pollution is one, and on the left, if you see the leachate that comes from 4,000 tons of garbage that goes into a dump yard, and the dump yard through rains this year has created huge leachate pools, and these have destroyed a few villages around, and 3 lakes have become massively toxic. And construction debris, this happens with every city because a lake is a no man's land. Nobody ever cares about it, so you think it's a glorified dump yard. So addressing these issues, there happened to be a parliament committee that was made for environment, and MP Renuka Chaudhary headed this, quickly took the opportunity to go and represent the lakes of Hyderabad to her. And it happened in Hyderabad with 31 MPs across the country. So took this opportunity, and I went and gave a representation from our NGO, talking about the sad state of our water bodies and wanting to do something about it. And so that thread is happening, where we are tying in with her to get in researchers, to get in the MP funds, to get to see how we can help in a larger way. Now, while the larger representation's happening, the community engagement is key, and you have to keep this going and persevering with them, and you can't just do one cleanup and back off, right? So while the Ganesh Chaturthi and every other event, there's one event we did just with kids. When I gave, usually before a cleanup, I give an awareness. So again, I had a bunch of 20 kids, and I saw quickly that women and children were actually drivers to this cause, because women concerned about the kids' health, and children because they're enthusiastic about reviving a water body. And every event, actually, we play the national anthem, and we do a human chain around lakes saying that you take a pledge today to save the water body, and that kicks in a certain commitment in them. Okay, I want to do this. So we had art competitions, and even tied up with a lot of religious institutions, because many religious institutions around the lakes too, and they are a major source of getting plastics. And every cleanup, literally we have at least 3 truck loads of garbage, only plastics, right? So, and then the first plantation event we did, we were quite surprised that the forest minister himself agreed to come, and the mayor was there. So that was a very good support for our event, because they slowly started understanding the content of what we were doing. So the initiative slowly got noticed in the mainstream. So I made it a point that every cleanup event, I don't call the media, because it is the purpose, right? It is not a selfie movement. It's just a purpose, and people have to start doing it with commitment. So, but then we got noticed with all the good stuff that we were driving, and more communities across the city started seeking our support, and government and larger NGOs started getting engaged with us, and more researchers came forward, okay, what you guys are doing and what kind of support you need. And so just the media itself took us to a larger level of support. So we started looking actively from our end, working more with the government and municipality. Though they are supporting, we're looking at bigger support from them. So there's one lake where there's about 1.5 kilometer of sewage that just flows along the lake like a nala, and it's disturbing 3, 4 slum communities, they do not have the voice to go to the government and talk about this. They silently suffer. So that was one thing I took on. I took all the engineering department, the zonal commissioner, and made few visits. And now they have come up with a proposal. It's under tendering process. They're now going to connect this open sewage at 25 different points to a mainstream drain UGD line. And so that's going to be a big change that it's going to bring. So while we are talking about the lakes, addressing issues of the community on one end also becomes of prime importance. You become one of them, then they are ready to bond with you to come for the larger, bonding with the lake. And with architects, and so we're trying to see each lake is, you can't have a prescriptive approach to every lake. Each lake is different. The problems are different. The solutions are different. So there's one lake where there's a wall. If you just simply cut down that wall and make a seating edge, and there's already an avenue of trees. So if you have some percolating, surface where it can be used as a jogging track and stuff. So simple solutions which probably the community can get together and make it happen. Right? And we are looking at corporates getting on board for the larger problem of, I don't believe in diverting sewage to another area and making it their problem. Instead, start talking about treating with constructed wetlands and through organic methods where we don't use power and we treat the water and give it to the lake. So my dream is to make the urban lakes come alive in a way that it becomes an interesting public space and where you have saved water in a large way, and looking forward to all the 172 lakes, while I'm right now focused on one single lake, and do the restoration in such a way that it's sustainable and long-term, not a short-term solution. Now, I want to leave you with this thought, right? Pune, if you see, the district of Pune has the most polluted rivers in Maharashtra. We have one right in our backyard here. It's pristine, it's beautiful on one end. I actually took a walk along the river, and you see the dark side of it too. So I would here request, like I said in the beginning, communities are the way forward, and how we adapt solutions, how we adapt sustainable solutions. And each one of us form the community. If one person like me could think, and it could catapult in many ways, each one of you can make it happen. Just the college and the authorities, and if you can get together and just persevere, don't give up. See, the one thing with social change is do not give up. When you don't give up, we know all the problems, we have all the solutions. Believe me, we have every solution. We just have to connect the dots. Like the problems are diverse, the solution is also diverse. And once you start connecting the dots, we will build the smartest city. Today we are talking about smart cities. The smartest city is the one where we are talking about preserving the very essence of life, water. Thank you.